Good morning. Welcome
Yes.
back. Welcome to the show. Glad you
Look,
could make it.
I'm glad you
And
could make it.
I'm glad I could make it. I just barely made it. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes waiting.
Yeah, you were going
But
to the airport, and then that happened, right?
yeah, that's all
Ah,
right. I just watched all the pre-show stuff. There were
I watched.
cartoons on my screen. Did you have those?
Yes, I watched all the pre-rolls this morning.
All right.
So yes,
So
another
here we
another
are.
week.
We're still at home. We're still in our
Pajamas.
lockdown mode, but
Oh, I thought you were going to say pajamas.
no, I got out of my pajamas almost 20
A
minutes
week
ago.
ago. A week ago.
No, I have no pants on at all right now. So
Right. Like most people on TV, right?
yeah, right.
You are news though, James. You're reopening Cesar soon, right?
Yes,
Maybe. I mean,
yes.
maybe or for sure. That's it.
No, for sure. The chef is going to start getting the kitchen cranked up on Monday, March 1st. I think they're gonna have a day of just getting the kitchen together, and I'm sure they got to order food and all that. And then they're gonna start prepping, and we're gonna open up at the end of the week. So I don't know exactly what day we're gonna open, but I know we'll be open
Oh, you're
Friday.
not sure. Okay.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna be open the Friday the 5th. I'm working on the 6th.
So it's about 10 days ago away. Okay, cool.
So I'm working Saturday the 6th. So if you want some really good service, good, friendly, knowledgeable service, be sure and go on Friday the 5th because someone else will be there. No, I'm kidding. Come and see me on Saturday.
That's going to be great, man. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So Cesar is reopening on. Wait. People are, I mean, some people are reopening, some people are not reopening.
Yeah, we're gonna add more tables outside. We're gonna build a parklet out into the street, and this is the perfect time to do it because we're gonna go into the nice spring weather.
Right.
The days are getting longer, so
And
it's a much better time.
And you're doing a 4-floor parklet?
Yeah, we're doing one of those things where you go and you sit at your table, and then the elevator takes you up to another level, and then we put another people in, and just.
Do you remember, James? Have you ever worked in a restaurant where you had something called dumb waiter?
I've never worked in a place that had one. But
I did.
I mean, I have worked with a couple of dumb waiters, but
right.
We never had a dumb waiter.
Do you know what the dumb waiter is?
Yeah. It's like a little tiny elevator.
So I worked in places like this. And
wow.
You have to. So
because the kitchen's like in the basement and the dining room's upstairs, and so they send the food up
or
that
the
way.
Opposite, or the kitchen is like way up there, and then you have to manually get your dishes, dirty dishes, and bring the clean one, and there's a whole protocol, right? And
yeah.
dumb waiter, I just remember about that because you said dumb waiter, and I was like, oh my god, that's the name of the machine that we used to bring food in, and you're like, no, that's not it. Like,
yeah.
Well,
I think it's much more common in Europe because, especially in the big cities like Paris, traditionally they would build the kitchens underground. And,
or another floor. I mean, a lot of restaurants in Paris, the kitchen is separated.
Yeah. Yeah, the kitchen might be on the main street level, and then the dining room is.
Or whatever. Yeah, there's always a discrepancy, and then you have this thing that. And then it came electrical after, much later, but it was like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a fantastic book by George Orwell, British author, that it's called Down and Out in London and Paris. And he wrote about his experiences. I think it was in the 20s, maybe in the teens, and he worked in Paris for a long time in the restaurants. And it was just slave labor. He was like 2 stories underground.
Oh yeah. No, that was.
He talked about the grueling conditions, and
yeah,
that would have been something.
And so, you were talking about something I forgot. I lost my track.
Well, in those days, they didn't have much concern for worker welfare. You were just expected to come in, do your job, and.
It's true,
and be happy that you had it.
It's very true, but on the other hand, if you were a good employee, they don't want to lose you either. It's like it's always the same thing. So if you were working really well, you could have a little bit leeway because to retrain somebody. It's the same story always. You have to retrain somebody.
Sure.
Trust this new person. It's even though there's a lot of people that available, it's not easy. So
yeah. And if you were good, you could rise through the ranks and eventually maybe be up in the dining room or become a cook or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
it's a great book, though. It's very interesting. And then London, he went to London and he had the same experiences. He worked in restaurants there, and it was hard work in those days. I mean, it still is, but we have a lot more comfort in our jobs today and treated with a lot more respect.
I remember that there was a magazine in Paris that was really cool. They did, in Paris, when you used to go in a restaurant, the restaurant was really cool, and then the bathroom was terrible, like really terrible. And there was this magazine that did the cleanest bathroom in Paris. And after that magazine came out, that was really a good idea. People started to take care of the bathroom.
Oh yeah,
because they got crashed on reviews, because it's true. When it's disgusting, it's disgusting. I don't care how good the restaurant is. It's a reflection of the whole restaurant, right? And people would and it was at the beginning, there was crazy people who were complaining about it, but then they realized it was a good thing, because now people would take care of the bathroom, which is a really good thing. Anyway.
Yeah. It's always been a thing of mine. Even at Cesar, I would when we were open for real and I was tending bar, or if I was working on the floor, I would just periodically go into each bathroom and pick up all the crap from the floor and, wipe things down a little bit.
Nobody would go for the whole week.
Make sure there was plenty of toilet paper, and it takes a second to do, and it makes all the difference in the world.
But in Paris, most of the toilets have no. You just go.
Right.
You have a. It's a hole, right?
Right. Anyway. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me, though, too, that how much stuff people throw on the floor. I mean, there's a wastebasket right there, and yet they dry their hands, and I don't know whether they just toss it over their shoulder on the way out the door or what.
It's a basketball thing. It's a basketball.
Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, listen, I picked an interesting question. Actually, it's a totally silly question off of our list. And someone a student once asked, if you only had one of your senses to use to evaluate food, what would it be? I said hearing, because when I drive up to the drive-up window at the burger place, I want to be able to hear that they got my order. Is that what they mean?
I think you're right, because when people say that, I think that pate talks to me. I think that's what it is. I think that.
Oh, that sandwich just spoke to me.
It's speaking to me in really loudly, though.
Yeah.
I say smell, but it's actually all of them work together.
Yeah.
The hearing, that's how your temperature. This is the loudness, temperature.
Very important.
And the smell tells you when things are done or strong or whatever. The visual is the last one, huh?
Visual is important, but it's probably the last one. It's smell is more important than taste, probably, because without smell you don't have taste. I don't know how you could have smell and not have taste, but I guess people do. A lot of people that have had COVID say they lost their sense of taste for a while. That would be awful. But yeah, I think smelling is the most important evaluative sense when you're talking about food. Another thing that's important about hearing is if you're in a professional kitchen, you want to know if somebody says behind you as they pass behind you with a pot of boiling hot oil or hot pan.
You want to hear the orders. That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Because in a kitchen, when there's no ticket, it's some of them are still oral.
Right.
And the way you do that, you have to repeat the order. So someone calls for an order, I like a steak, bleu, medium rare, and it has to be repeated.
Right.
Once it's repeated, it's his, right?
Yeah.
It's not yours any longer. And then that person needs to make sure that it comes out in about 12 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why we came up with ticket. But in the old days, it was just it
was all verbal. Yeah. And of course, if you're the owner of the restaurant, you want to be able to hear the cash register going ka-ching, ka-ching. I don't think our register doesn't make that noise, but
do you know the restaurant Chartier, right?
Yeah.
In Paris, Chartier. You've been there?
I've never been there. No.
Oh. Okay. So this is the most incredible experience. You need to go, Jim. Next time you go to Paris, you absolutely have to go to Chartier. This is the most relevant experience in the old style restaurant business. So you have a bunch of waiters, and they don't take a order. They just remember everything by head. And every time you order something, they put it on the table. They write it down on the table. And they have to charge you because they pay the restaurant. So if they forget something, the restaurant doesn't care because the restaurant is going to cash all this without the check. So the way it works is they have those. Have you seen those guys? They carry like 8, 9, 10, 12 plates.
Right.
And they go in line coming out of the kitchen, and there's a cash register coming outside of the kitchen. And every server has a number, 12, 13, whatever. And they come out, and the number 13, and she rings everything that is in his hand.
Wow.
Next waiter, and she rings everything. And at the end of the night, they have to come out with their money, and they have to remember everything. And they go like this on each table's people, and they make, okay, you have this, okay, that would be this. And yet the check is on the...
That's great.
And it still happens like that today.
I've been to a couple places in Paris, well, in other places in France, where they write everything on the paper tablecloth, and then at Entrecôte they do that. Of course, at Entrecôte, all they do is you just tell them how many steaks you want. You don't. The orders aren't too subtle. There's not much choice. It's just how many do you want and what kind of wine do you want to drink. Yeah. Well, in the old style tapas bars in Spain, they don't. They just leave the plates. They just stack up the plates, and then at the end of the meal, when you're done, they just count the plates, and it's Mexico, whatever. It's
when I used to go Mexico and in Ecuador, I remember that. But you leave your bottle of beer on the table, and they count it at the end.
Oh yeah.
So you have like 12 to 14 to 16 bottles here because it's hot and everybody's outside doing nothing, right?
Right.
And I'm sitting next to a bunch of cups that was really cool, and their table was loaded with bottles. Because there's nothing to do there. They just, in Ecuador, it was in San Lorenzo. It was a little city in the jungle, in a little town in the jungle. They had nothing to do, and there was 3 cups there that just and the table was full. So I brought them around. There we go. There's nothing for them to do over there.
Can you imagine here if you're sitting in an outdoor restaurant and you had that many beer bottles on your table? The cops would take one look and they would just park there and wait for you to leave, and then they'd arrest you.
Now it would be more like here. It would be coffees everywhere, right?
Right.
Anyway, it's all the fun stuff, right?
Yeah. So
we do have a question though. So
speaking of Ecuador. Wait, were we speaking of Ecuador?
Ecuador, Mexico.
So we've been using a lot of coconut milk in our house. We use it to add to soups. We use it to thicken sauces. We use it in desserts. My wife's really into it. So what do you think about coconut milk? Should we be eating all this coconut?
I love coconut milk.
It's good for you?
Good. So James, it's funny because we do a lot of nutrition talk with Lisa, my business partner, Lisa Miller, and we do a lot of nutrition talk for lots of companies, Kaiser, Altabate, also a bunch of companies. They are very interested in the nutrition, and a lot of questions are the same over and over and over. What's the perfect diet? What is this? Why there's so many different diets? Why is this good? Is butter good? Is coconut milk? The best way to think about it, whatever comes from nature is good. Pretty much all of it, I'd say. Of course, there's a couple of things that are not, like some plants will kill you. But other than that, everything that comes from nature really is good.
So the rule is if it doesn't kill you, then it's probably good for you?
No.
So I should have someone try it first.
No. Yeah, so my next point is, basically, if it's good for you, it's good. If it's not good for you, it's not good for you. But it doesn't mean it's not good. So first of all, if it comes from nature, it's probably good for you. But some people have issues with certain items, and they need to figure it out. So there's not one diet for everyone. That's the point. Is if coconut is made by nature and people have been eating those coconut for hundreds of years, I don't see how it can be bad. Also, I know what's in there, and there's nothing bad in there. And people talk about saturated fat, and they have no idea what they're talking about. So we need to discard these people that keep looking at studies and studies and studies and studies, instead of looking at the chemistry and actually the historic and empirical, studies, which is basically, and enough with those people that are their eyes in the microscope and don't get, they have no concept of the food. They just look at one molecule and decide that because of that, it's completely crazy. It doesn't mean anything. It's fake. It's wrong to look in the microscope all day long. It's wrong. You don't do that. Our eyes don't mean to be able to look at bacteria that much. We need to get the idea that all the food is good. It smells good. It looks good. That's good. The body already knows that. But once you look in the microscope, you're going to be freaked out because there's so many things that, whoa, well, yeah, like, So coconut is a fantastic food. I think it's pretty amazing. It replaced for milk. Milk is not good. Remember, we talked about milk, right? It's not great, right? So coconut milk is fantastic. It tastes really good if you like the flavor, right? If you don't, you know. But let's say I make a dessert, for example, for vegan people. I do vegan classes sometimes. And one of the super easy desserts, I mean, really, really easy. Take a bunch of fruits, put it into a ramekin, put some coconut milk, put some shaved coconut, and put it in the oven. You have a gratin, done.
Yeah.
Takes like 10-15 minutes. You have a beautiful dessert that smells really good. You can put some sugar. I don't put sugar, but you can put some sugar in there. And you have something awesome. And that's it. And coconut is super easy, and it fills you up. It's really good. It's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good fat. Lots of good fat. Protein. Lots of nutrients. Manganese, copper, phosphorus. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So yes, I think it's really good. I think it's very good. Coconut butter is really good.
There was a story in the news recently that some people got stranded. They got shipwrecked on some little island, and they were there for like 22 days or something, and all they had to eat was coconuts, and they survived on that.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure they probably never want to see a coconut again, but they survived.
Yeah, right. It's I mean, I see if I coconut here, about a coconut, 1 cup, which is not a lot, has about 5 grams of protein, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough to keep you alive.
Exactly.
Well, that's interesting. Well, that's good to know, because we've been using quite a lot of it. Not a lot, but especially in baking and in soups.
Let me show you something I just got today, actually. Use something good, of course. It can be expensive. Not expensive. It can be pricey, let's say. And I got some good ones here. I got 2 good ones. There's a bunch of, the one of the best one is a Thai organic. It's a really, really nice. I don't have any of that.
There's one by Thai Kitchen. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So those are pretty good, right?
Yes. We've used both of those.
Yeah.
It's amazing how different the different brands of coconut can be, though. Some of them are much thicker than others. Some of them have a slightly different taste. We should also point out that coconut milk is not the liquid inside a coconut. That's coconut water. When you break open a coconut or you put a hole in it, there's liquid inside. That's not the coconut milk. Right. Coconut milk is when you basically cook down the meat and then strain it. Grind it, yeah, and it's not overly processed, but you do have to do something. It's not just a matter of breaking open the coconut and pouring the liquid out.
Yeah, and coconut oil is really, really good. It's a really good fat, and saturated fat are fantastic food. And it's not just saturated. This one is actually a medium chain, kind of a medium chain triglyceride. I mean, it can be used kind of like sugar. It's like directly used without going through the liver. It's a very, very fast metabolism. Also, it's really good for your guts. And people are always very worried about the saturated fat, which I still don't understand why. I mean, I understand why, but the studies
they've been brainwashed.
We're done with that. We're done with that.
Well, there's too many people out there trying to make a living selling you these specific diets. You know, there's too many guys like Dr. Oz that, you know, they've staked their whole career on low fat, low flavor diets. And
well, the problem with those people is they keep changing. So once you look at it, if you listen to this guy for 2 years, then you have no idea what he says.
Yeah, right.
Because you know, some stuff are good, some stuff are terrible. But the problem is, stick to one thing. What's a good diet? It's a diet with real food. That's what is good.
It's interesting what you said about the microscope, though, because you look at anything under a microscope. If you took the finest piece of silk in the world, looked it under a microscope, it would look terrifying.
Look at your tongue's bacteria. You know, when they put those pictures, you're like, oh my God. You're surrounded by this thing, man. This is what keeps us alive. This guy keeps us alive.
They say that at any given time, you have all kinds of living creatures, even in your eyebrows. We're covered in...
James, it's not at any point of time. It's 100% of the time.
Yeah. We're just vehicles. We're vehicles for bacteria.
Exactly. No, it's true. If you break down the DNA of the whole body, you have a way to break it down now, and you realize that only human cells are 1% of the DNA. Seriously, all the other DNA, all the DNA from everything else is viruses mostly, and then bacteria.
Wow.
So what you need to understand, and people need to understand that, is at birth, 99% of your genome is not here.
Wow.
You understand that? So we're completely virgin as we come, and we need all that we can get from my mom, the dirt, the vegetables, all the stuff. We need to really quickly, in a few years, build our genome, our immune system, and that's from the guts, and that builds our genome as well. You see, this is crazy stuff, right?
Right.
The training is, it's not like, no, it's years of training. I think it's up to 2 years old or 3 years old. But other than that, you have nothing.
That's why you shouldn't get too freaked out when your kids get dirty. It's actually good for them.
Yeah, they're building their immune system.
I mean, you don't want them to have things that are dangerous, but dirt is good.
What's dangerous? The body is very equipped to deal with stuff that is surrounding us, as long as it's not synthetic or like super toxic.
Right.
But if it's toxic, sometimes the body is going to create those antibodies immediately, and that's what you do. You build that ecosystem of defense, and now people are all about the guts. Well, yeah, because that they are the only one who's protecting you.
Right.
Nobody else, like really nobody else. So
when people tell you to go with your gut feeling, they're not just whistling Dixie. That's absolutely good advice.
So anyway,
we have a couple more questions. I don't think we have time to get into most of them, but
one quick one.
Is the tomato a vegetable or a fruit? This has plagued humans for hundreds of years. Is it a vegetable or is it a fruit?
It's a fruit
that we treat like a vegetable.
So it's botanically, it's a fruit. In the kitchen, it's a vegetable. So culinary world, it's a vegetable, but botanically, it's a fruit. Why? Because there's seeds in there. So if you cut squash, that's a fruit. Avocado
squash is a fruit.
Yeah.
So what would be examples of true vegetables, for example, like broccoli?
So the squash, they live on the ground, right?
Right.
And they have seeds in there.
So it's technically it's a fruit.
But no, it's a vegetable, but it's a fruit also. So usually fruits have seeds.
Inside
or outside for the strawberries, which is
strawberries
basically the
outside.
The seeds are surrounding the fruit. It's very cool, huh?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've always thought of tomatoes as fruit. and you can use them in the same way you use fruits. Sometimes they're tomatoes used in desserts, but 99% of the time a tomato is used in a savory application, like it's a vegetable for soups and stews and sandwiches.
And tomatoes were considered as a poison for many I was going to say centuries, but it came in Europe in like 1600 or 1500 or 1600, not exactly, but it was considered as a poison at the beginning.
Right.
And the same in Italy, and it was labeled first as a mandrake. Mandrake is a poison.
Right.
And then and then it was labeled as a nightshade, with nightshade at the time was poisonous. But actually it's not poisonous, but that's what people thought of. That's why it took a long time to take off. And then the Italians were able to deal with tomatoes the best way. What they did is, for the pomodoro, for example, they removed the seed and the skin. And traditionally, the pomodoro is skinless and seedless, because this is what the lectins are.
Mm-hmm.
And when people have joint issue with nightshade, that they feel like their joints are hurting, so they remove the nightshade. This is mostly the lectins. That's what create inflammations, and that's the skin and the seed. And in South America, they burn the skin and seed the peppers, right? You see,
right.
there's an old way to eat those things, and
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it's interesting too that when the tomato traveled around the world, how it quickly adapted to different environments and completely changed. I mean, the Italians have the Roma tomatoes that were unique to them. I mean, they're grown in other places now, but they developed that, and it's a perfect tomato for making sauces out of. There are different kinds of tomatoes in Spain. And it's interesting, all these foods that came over from the New World, they had to figure out how to eat them. I mean, potatoes were the same thing. They thought potatoes were poisonous. And corn is interesting, because everybody thought it was a miracle food. They could eat all this corn, but really, if you try to live on corn, like fresh corn, you can actually get a disease that it's like a malnourished disease. You have to slake the corn, and the Native Americans in South America knew how to do that. They would put the corn in ashes after a fire, and that lime would work on, and it would transform the corn into something they could use, and then they would grind it. But in Italy, they just tried to live on polenta. They were just making polenta out of fresh corn, and they all got sick. So they had to figure out. Of course, if you make polenta and you put meat sauce on it, or tomato sauce, or vegetables, or something, that makes it better. But
that's what I was going to say. A lot of time they added some cheese or milk, or
right,
and that becomes a food protein after that.
Right. But you can't just live on it by itself.
You can't live on anything by itself, on itself.
Right.
That's just the way it is. You need a variety of things, and we need to build our guts. And the guts are very, I would say, weak in the Western countries. We have very few. I was looking at the number of species that we have compared to people in Amazonian. I think in Europe and Americas, we have something like maybe between 800 and 1,200 species of different, strain of bacteria. And when you look at Indian from Amazonia, they have something like 35 to 4,000 species. I'm not saying that they live older or whatever, but they are certainly healthier, right?
Yeah.
And they have much more defense. So we need to rework on our guts, and that means eating a lot of different things. That's how they come. Lots of different things.
And Americans tend to eat the same things all the time.
Right.
A lot of Americans
eat a lot of things. Fruits, vegetables, different type of meat, butters, cheese, eggs, everything. And then you have a variety of gut bacteria that can defend from a lot of different things, much more than small amount, right?
Yeah, I have a greatly varied diet. I like several different kinds of cookies. I like all kinds of flavors of ice cream. So I think variety is good.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. I don't eat cookies. I don't eat ice cream.
I don't eat cookies either. I'm not saying it's.
Once in a while.
So if I have to you guys, if you want to know when to eat cookie, or candies, I would say the best time would be 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5. That's the best time to eat this. And this is why in France we have the 4 heures, which is called the 4 p.m. This is where we eat our dessert or candies.
Right. In England, they have tea time. That's when they would typically eat a cake or
and that means that's in the end of afternoon. It's way before meal. So you have time to just, it's gone, right? It's gone.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect time to eat your candies or sweet. So that's kind of
all
cool,
right.
Man.
Good advice.
Thank you, James.
Well, that's all the time we have. I don't mean on Earth. I mean just today for our broadcast. We'll be back next Monday, so don't panic.
On Earth. All right, and then great for Cesar. So that's why I'm excited. We're gonna go have a drink now.
Okay, and be sure and look at our Facebook posts because I write a little blurb about the next week's show each week. Usually goes up on Wednesday, so.
Oh, I thought you said for Cesar. No, there's no.
No. Cesar, we have an Instagram account, but we'll start that up again too. So anyway,
awesome. See you soon.
See you next Monday.
You guys. Yes. Bye. Bye.
Have a good week, everybody.